Professor Kumaraswamy from Hemagangotri, Hassan. Previously, he was with us in Hemagangotri. Previously, he was the chairman of Department Studies in Commerce, Hemagangotri. And now he is in Hassan PG Center, Hemagangotri, as a professor in Department of Commerce. He had taken many administrative positions in University of Mysore. He was a founder coordinator of Satellite Center, which is now the new university which is coming up in Chamarajanagar. He is a founder coordinator who started the courses in Satellite Center, Chamarajanagar, University of Mysore. He was a course coordinator in the PG Center in Hassan before, and the coordinator of member CBCS during 2010 and 12. And he is a coordinator for CBCS MSW and commerce courses in Chamarajanagar as well. And he was internal audit and stock verification of post-graduation in Hassan. Is in charge of it. And he was a placement convener and placement activities of Department of Commerce in Hassan. And currently he is a chairman in currently he is as a professor in Hemagangotri. Previously he was a chairman of Department of Studies in Commerce during the 2006 and 16 and 18. And he has produced many publications, around 50 publications, and 8 PhDs have been awarded, and 8 of them are working under him. He has presented many papers in national and international seminars, and he has chaired many sessions in both national and international seminars. He has undertaken a major research project under UGC and completed successfully. And sir has been a resource person for KSOU, commercial tax, or corporate income tax, and he is a resource person for the syllabus review committee in JSS and KSOU. And he has many credits to the academia. Today we have with us Professor Kumaraswamy sir, who will be talking about
Madam mute agide madam, unmute madam. Amalya madam.
Sir, welcome to the session, sir. This is a 30th refresher course in commerce and management. We have 38 participants. Like 10 are from Tamil Nadu, 1 from Maharashtra, and 1 from Assam, and 26 are from Karnataka, sir.
Thank you, madam.
All are teaching UG and PG commerce and management, sir.
Okay,
welcome
madam.
to this.
Thank you, madam.
Sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your introduction, madam. Though,
okay, sir.
The audience, please.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
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 Thank you. Welcome. Now, I am Kumaraswamy. Now, even after completion of 3 decades, still I myself declared as a student of taxation, because the subject is vibrant and the subject needs to be updated, and the subject itself like this, because once the economic system changes and we have to retune the tax structure as per the changes in the economic system as well as the social system. Keeping that point in mind, today I want to share my experience inside of my knowledge relating to how the Indian tax structure is working under the federal system of government democratic setup in India. Now the title itself is very clear: Center and State Financial Relations. Whatever may be the relations as per the constitution, I myself restricted particularly after the introduction of GST is concerned. Now, most of you have heard that India is a federal system of government and it is completely restricted and bounded by the Constitution of India. Under the Constitution, Article 246 is completely empower the levy of taxation for all the three-tier system of governments. Three-tier means the central, state, and local governments. Even after the constitutions, there are a lot of tax reforms committees are appointed by the government. Keeping the point in mind, it is nothing but retuning this tax structure as per the requirement of the economic system. Now, knowingly or unknowingly, our entire tax-based structure was almost copied version of the UK base. Now we are modified as per our requirement, as per our economic system. Basically, our tax system is by the British people itself. They not only ruled us, they have give some kind of a tips to us in the form. One of the tips what we are received is the tax purview. Most of the taxes what we are enjoying today, almost the replica of the British peoples. Now keep that point in mind. In the federal system of government, the Article 246 is empowering all the three governments should have shared the levy of tax. Once the tax is levied, apportionment is also empowering by the Constitution through its parliamentary affairs. There we have to stretch somewhere the relationship between center and the state is tough time and a difficult time. Now in the cooperative federal system of government, no doubt we are federal system of government, but at present we have a cooperative federal system of government. In a cooperative federal system of government, the central government have more power than the state and the local government in respect of levy of tax, levy collection and apportionment of tax. Such being the case, the second way of tax system, what we are usually called as the Indian tax system, or you are already identified. India is the largest second economic system in the world, by not only in the population, in almost all economic activities. I think today's the GDP growth rate of the world is 1.9, but India is still struggling over around 6%. That shows how the economy, Indian economy is growing at the global level, as well as the one of the important developing country, and we are very close to developer countries. Keep that point in mind. India have a global tax system, and no doubt we have a good tax system, but to reach the global tax system, we have a lot of exercise to be taken into considerations. Now, once we call it as a graduate to tax system, one of the best way to call it as a graduate to tax system in the world, they have to moving towards no economic system and down the another 50 years. No tax, but we have tax. Almost 2/3 of the revenue collected by the central government, that is 2 lakh crores, that is 1.3 lakh crores is from the central tax revenues, including both direct tax as well as in indirect tax. But at present, we have the graduate to educative tax system. We are fulfilling so many objectives. How you can define our tax system is a graduate to tax system. Our tax system should provide, as you have heard, that more than 10,000 amendments from 1961 to today, almost 160 years. Our Income Tax Act 1861, now we are modified in 1961. Till today, we have the base act of 1961. Keep all those things in mind. We have a long history right from the Manu period relating to our tax system. But at present, we have a graduate to tax system. The graduate to tax system should provide more number of exemptions, deductions, rebate, and concession, make you to be a more educated by providing legal justice. When you go to any kind of other aspect, any decision for that matter, they provide only a legal justice. But in our tax system, by providing exemption, deduction, concession, we also ensure some kind of a social justice to the society. And we not only ensure the social justice, we also provide economic justice. Legal justice applicable to all by applying the prudential norms of the compliance of the taxes. And we ensure the deduction and the concession and the exemption to the remote corner of the society, doing some kind of a rebates. And economic justice, differential rate of the tax system between the two extreme ends of the population, below poverty line and above the poverty line. Our tax structure is designing in the slab exempted to 31%, because to provide economic justice. Keep all those things. We have a good tax system by providing all this. But only confusion is exemption, deduction, rebate, and concession has to be retuned every time when the economic system changes. That is the biggest challenge for a taxation student like our. We have to retune it. Otherwise, we have some kind of injustice, either in the form of a legal justice or social justice or economic justice. Such being the case, as a student of taxation, we need to update it every time or every day and even every moment, because the economic system is changing. The economic condition itself is changing. Keep all those things in mind. Even though more number of deduction, exemption, concession, and rebates, we have a graduate education tax system. But down the another 50 years, we are thinking over no tax economy, because how long we want to continue with the tax, it's the biggest challenge for all the peoples. But we are already thinking over reforms has taken place, one tax in indirect taxes, and we also clubbing both the custom duty, including to the GST. More than 90 taxes are bring together in the form of one tax for one nation in the form of a GST. But we are also thinking over, instead of keeping the GST and other things, we are indirect tax code that will be make more uniform to all those things. And we also thinking that not only indirect tax code, and we also already a step ahead to decided to direct tax code also. But another down the 25 years, we also clubbing both the please try to mute your the direct tax and indirect tax will going to move together in the form of common tax code. Such being the case, in another 25 years, definitely we can come across with common tax code. In another 50 years down the today, and we definitely find no tax economy, that is tax-free economy. The government can definitely mobilize the revenue, depends on some kind of a mechanism instead of doing this kind of tax structures. But that will not be an idea what that today share, because we have, I mean, all of us, we are a teachers, knowingly or unknowingly, as a customer, as a student, as a part of the public, we are aware that we have some kind of a tax. But I don't want to showing all those things. My straight away coming to the point. Financial resources between center to the state. As per the constitutions, under Article 246 of the Constitution, sharing of taxes under the Constitution is very clear. Under Article 246, all the taxes are classified into three lists. List 1, where the central government can levy, collect, and apportionment. And list 2, that is particularly exclusively for state governments. And list 3, concurrent list, where more number of local government and central government can levy and collect. Apportion can be between on the state government as well as the local government and even under the central government. These three will be definitely the division of the tax structure under the Constitution for all the three government. I have already told you, it's a cooperative federal system of government. When you are going to levy the taxes by the three different local governments, we need some part of a coordination that can be ensured through the federal system of government. But under the federal system of government, There are more number of federal system of government in India, but ours is a special category of federal system of a government, that is cooperative federal system of a government, where the central government have a more power than the state and the local government in case of impose, collection and apportionment of a tax revenue. Such being the case, the constitution is not only allocate the number of taxes for all the three local governments, and is also sharing of tax from divisible pool. Now, one of the important weapon used by the central government is directly levied and collected by the central government under the list 1. Those taxes are a portion of the taxes, a few taxes are putting, particularly corporate tax and income tax are comes under the purview of a divisible pool. Under the divisible pool, as per the recommendation of the Finance Commission, the central government is apportion a certain percentage of taxes from the divisible pool, all the governments, all the state governments, that is particularly union territories and the government also. Apart from that, the central government is also give some kind of a grants in aids. That is, this is very important for the context. Revenue deficit grants. I think most of we peoples are thinking over at the time of preparing the budget. Most of the developing countries are in the developing states have a kind of a deficit finance. But even though we are going to put it in the deficit financing, there must require some discipline, that is revenue discipline. What? The revenue discipline is very clear. Whatever the deposit you want to show it only to your capital account or capital expenditure or developmental expenditure, not on the regular expenditure. Even though if you want to show the deficit financing or deficit budgeting, but you should not be not more than 3% of your revenue deposit. If it's within that, that physical discipline is definitely ensured. That's why including Nirmala Sitharaman madam and in the local government are ensured. Still we are deficit, but we have a financial discipline. The deficit is in our control. That shows how we are moving the development of the economy. Without deficit, we cannot achieve any kind of developmental activities, because 70% of the revenue collected by the government is go for regular administrative expenditure, that is committed expenditure. Only to the extent of 30% is available for the development of the developmental activity. Such being the case, we want to accelerate the developmental activities. Inevitably, we go for deficit financing. Only that developmental expenditure can be allocated for deficit in nature. That should be ensure some kind of a discipline. The discipline should not be that the percentage of revenue discipline should not be more than 3%. That's why last year budget, Nirmala Sitharaman is very clear. Our revenue deposit 2.85%. That is within our control. Now, grants to local bodies. After the amendment of the Constitution, Article 71 to 74, all local governments have more power to levy the tax and collect and apportion the tax. Apart from that, the central government is also give some grants to the local bodies, particularly to establish their objectives behind the constitutional bodies. And disaster management grants. Most of the situation, the economy, one way or the other, there's maybe a natural disaster or human disaster or whatever be the disaster, every economy have facing this kind of a disaster situation. At that particular point of time, the government has to cope up with the needs of the central state governments through sanctioning some kind of an allocation of a financial resources in the name of disaster management grants. Now here, the relations between the center and the state under the Constitution, I'm already told you, cooperative federal system of a government, central government have a more power in allocation of a tax and apportionment of a tax and the rate, particularly after GST. When you go back to the VAT, only a few states have differential rate of a taxes and some states are also exempted from the VAT, and particularly the left front governments are not come forward with the right front governments and the mixture of tax structure. But at the time of introduction of a GST, the central government is using its cooperative federal system of a government power. They are enforcing all the state to introduce the GST from the 2016 itself. Otherwise, we will going to lose any kind of revenue assistance from the central government. Such kind of a power, that is the commanding power at present, have a central government under the constitution. That's why we can call it as a cooperative federal system of government. Even though constitution is empowering all the three governments, all the three lists and all the states, but central government have supreme power in respect of framing the constitutional framework or a policy relating to taxation. And sharing of divisible pool, that is very important. Now, until the 15th finance commissions, the finance commissions were recommended by using the different parameter to allocate the revenue collected by the central government, particularly in the form of direct taxes, that is a personal income tax, as well as the corporate tax, put in the form of a divisible proceeds as available for divisible pool. As per the recommendation of the finance commission, as you have the finance commission is a statutory body. It is comes out of the constitutional power. Article 381 have a power. No question of amendment, no question of any changes, because it's not a parliamentary body, it's a statutory body. Whatever the recommendation is made by the statutory body, that is finance commission, simply that has to be implemented by this central government. There is no other options. Keep such statutory body in mind, but that exports. There are 15 finance commission, and even the state government have more state finance commission also, because we have a mixture of all the three states. Maharashtra are also there, and Kerala are also there, Tamil Nadu people are there, Karnataka. We have a different finance commission for different states apart from the central government. Keep that point in mind. The finance commission is recommending certain principles in mind: population, geographical growth, efficiency, the requirement, the status of economic development. There are 14 principles are used by the finance commission for allocation of revenues. But still today, only to the extent of 42% of the revenue available under the divisible pool is redistributing to the central, from center to the state. Here, there is a big argument. Earlier, until 14th Finance Commission, only to the extent of 31% of revenue is available, distributed for. But as per the 15th Finance Commission, it's a chunk increases from 31 to 42%. This 42% is available for the state government. But there is a lot of arguments between the two government, that is central and state government, taking back almost all the grants in 8 and special grants in 8 taken back by the central government. They are giving in the form of increases the revenue from 31% to 42%. There is a lot of arguments between the center and the state. But the state, we have a double in government, both central and state. In our case, is a BJP. But BJP people are very happy. The revenue percentage is increased, and distribution percentage is increased from 31 to 42. But the opposition people are definitely clearly state that with the statistics, before we were receiving 9,000 crores. But now we are receiving only to the 8,000 crores, to the extent of 900 crores is a shortage. Even though it is increases from 32 to 42%, that is a mechanism used by the central government for this distribution of revenue. Even though it increases, but statistical, the quantum of inflow from central to state, it is decreasing. Such that can analysis are also made by two different governments. Now keep all these things in mind. Can you ensure some kind of a relationship between these two? Now, Finance Commission is recommended should also be based as a decision taken by the government under the GST. What the present arrangement is made between the proper disposal of the financial resource is available for divisible pool tax revenue. Now, the tax revenue available for the divisible pool in the hands of the central government, it is as per the disposal of the Finance Commission. The Finance Commission is a constitutional framework, what I have already told you, it's an independent body, is always find a formula for a distribution, but formula come out with certain ways that will not be provide justice to all the states. Because we have a different economic status. Developed state also there, developing states are very poor states are also there, keeping certain formula, that is 14 principle what they are following by the still the Finance Commission will not fulfill the requirement of the state government. Here, by knowingly or unknowingly, after tax reforms, particularly indirect tax reforms, we come across one of the important concepts. That concept is to the global standard, and it is the long back that is laying almost from 9 years effort from the earlier Pradhan Mantri, that is Vajpayee, to the present system. It takes 9 years and almost 10 years for the implementation of a goods and service taxes. Now, all of you have the benefits and ideas and the reforms and entire thing relating to GST, because we are teachers. But I will not come across with all those things. But how the GST will going to in fact or influence, or what will be the consequences after implementation of a GST, particularly between the financial relation between center and the state. Now, as you have heard that the GST is a big revolution in the Indian tax system, and it is the outcome of tax reforms. The entire market comes under the single tax system. Earlier, every state government have their own, but now, earlier the state governments have power to impose and collect the tax in the indirect tax from the citizen. But now, almost all the states have comes under the ambit of GST, particularly in the hands of central governments. But only a few excise duty and the taxes are available in the hands of the state governments. But that is very clear. Majority of the tax revenues are collected directly or indirectly by the central government, are allocated, are empowering through the constitution. In such being the case, we have a federal system of a government, but we are living with a union system of taxation, particularly under the GST. Now, GST share. Earlier thinking that GST is come across in the form of a two major component. One is SGST and CGST. That is a state component and the central component. But at the beginning, we have a lot of expectations. People will definitely lose their tax burden, and the free market and the goods and services commodity prices will come down. Revenues will increase, tax evasion will comes down, tax avoidance also comes down. With a lot of ambitions, with a lot of expectation, the GST was introduced. That too, particularly my point, the entire indirect taxes are apportioned between the center and the state 50-50%. Even the suggestion from the 15 Finance Commission is also give not to 50%, it is 41% from its portion of the states. It is very clear, the entire indirect taxes are divided into two groups, STST and CGST, that is equally 50% for state government and equally 50% from the central government. But the present scenario is not like that. In theory, it says 50% to state and 50% to the central. But now it is very clear that once you take any kind of an example, because we are a teacher and a common man and a citizens, at the time of levy of a tax, that is particularly GST, central government goods and taxes are there, state goods and service taxes are there, union territory goods and service taxes are there, and integrated goods and services are there. There are three different categories of what we have. Still, international taxation is not comes under the ambit of the GST. We'll separately show it. Still, we have a concept called customs duty for import and export. But state and the central have equally distributing the revenue collected by the center. But once 18% is levied, 9% goes to center, 9% goes to state government. But 9% goes to state government is available for immediately, it's available for the utilization of their economic fulfillment by the states. But remaining 9% collected by the state central government, even though we have a mechanism of that is input tax credit. Under the input tax credit, the central government is not only delay in apportionment of the tax revenue collected by the central government, reallocation to the state government. And the next one, the mechanism of input tax credit is not immediately available, not only for the manufacturer and even for the state government. There is a big delay in case of settlement of input tax credit on the one side. The flow collected, the tax collected by the central government flow to the state government, it's also delay take place. That mechanism has to identify. Now the student of taxation, we have to identify here to improve the financial relations. Until the income received from the central government, all state economic activities will be collapsed and delay. And we needs to borrow the money from outside. And at the time of introduction of GST, Madam Nirmala Sitharaman and even the central government is also ensure that we will definitely ensure that we will going to provide some kind of a relief for 5 years. That period is also over, but now they are take away their promise and you will be continued on your own. But most of the states are not developed in respect of GST as per the expectation of the central government before the introduction. In such being the case, most of the state governments are lacking behind to raise the revenue on its own and their heavily depends on the borrowings. And even earlier, a few months back, the central government is also, we will provide a loan, we will take a loan, but loans and other things not in a position to borrow from the central government or RBI by giving a guarantee of our revenue, but we need our revenue to commit our economic activity, state government economic activity. Such is the situation. The flow of financial resources, either in the form of the taxes or in the form of the revenue resources, our allocation available under the divisible pool, and even the grants and the disaster grant and the revenue receipt, all are not flowingly as per the expectation of the state government. We find some kind of a political injustice here. When we have the election period, when we have some other context, when we keep our eye on a particular state, such kind of a state will definitely get more benefit. And a state we have lacking behind, a state with a different kind of an approach, a different kind of a political system will not getting any kind of a favorism from this central government. Here, though the resources is distributed to the constitution, but flowing of finance or flowing of resources will be make some political injustice. Now that's why more number of government, we are, even though we are a double engine government, both center and state have a BJP government, most of the circumstances, Karnataka state government will going to lose the revenue on par with other states. Now, as you have a, we are the second largest economic states in the world in collection of a GST, but the revenue resources from the central government, we are in the 7th place. Now, how this was happened? Only because of political injustice. All these things will definitely educate us as a student of taxation. We need to reform the GST, not only in respect through the GST council, there is administrative factor, but the financial relation between these two, we need definitely financial independency for the state government. Though no doubt we have the excise duty on the one side, the local excise duty and state excise duty on the one side, and we have both center and state government have definitely under the try to bring the petroleum products under GST also. But if you introduce that, state government will definitely going to lose the revenue because the highest tax revenue or GST is 28%. But when it comes to the excise duty or the taxes levied by both central and state government on the petroleum product is more than 100%. The actual crude oil prices, the actual prices of the petroleum product, for example, petrol, it is not more than 34 rupees. At present, they are selling for 100 rupees. Remaining the 66 rupees are definitely shared between center and the state equally by levying out different kind of a tax, including the commission distributed for the dealers. Such being the case, if it 40 rupees you take, and if you levy the highest rate of GST on 40 rupees to the extent of the 28%, it definitely it may not comes to even the 12 rupees. In such being the 40 rupees plus 12 rupees, that will be 52 rupees. The petrol must be available if they are trying to include it in this. But the mechanism is totally different. Both the central government and the state governments, they are ignoring the interest of the people on the one side, they try to raise their revenue. But no doubt they are revising and redistributing that. But we need proper accountability at the time of spending of the expenditure. Even day before yesterday, the Supreme Court is very clear. All the taxpayers should going to form their union to question your right to the governments. Now, as per all of you have, tax means we are simply paying the compulsory payment to the government without expecting anything, quid pro, without any kind of in return. But the central government, the Supreme Court is already come up with its wordings. All taxpayers should have your own association. Then through that, you can definitely fight against the government where our money goes. The people have definitely can demand the acceptability. But after the GST was introduced, the financial relationship between the center and the state, it is identified. Goods and service tax, there is a state government and central government, divisible full disposal responsibility towards the citizens. Where we try to include the GST under the divisible pool. But I'm very clear, the GST is already divided into two parts. One is SGST and CGST. I am talking about inclusion of the central government GST to the divisible pool, not the state. Whatever the central government tax is collected, that should be comes under the purview of divisible pool. Then only we provide some minimum justice to the state government. Still, the GST Council and the central government is not in a position to accept it. And central government, the entire tax structure is taken into considerations. I'm already told you more than 2/3 of the revenue collected by both center and the state is from tax, both direct and indirect tax. But as we assume that state government and central government have equally enjoying the tax resources, but as per the statistics available, as per the Finance Commission, 60% of the tax revenues are collected and apportioned and enjoyed by the central government. Only to the extent of 40% are collected and enjoyed by the state government. That is still a gap of 10%. We find the financial injustice. We try to retuning the existing structure to 50-50. That is the one point is identified after the implementation of goods and service taxes. The Finance Commission recommend the tax revenue sharing between the center and state. You should be, the fund is conflict of Finance Commission recommendation as per the factors influencing on the devolution of a fund. The moving of a fund from the centers to state, particularly under the divisible pool, they have taking some kind of the principles. For example, population they are taking, deficit revenue they are taking, based on the deficit, some of the percentage of the tax revenue and available under the divisible pool is go to such kind of a states. But in such kind of a state will definitely demotivate to go for deficit financing rather than improving their financial condition. Then always there is some kind of a arguments between both the plus points and the negative points is always there. We need to provide such kind of a thinking to be taken into considerations. The union government delay in sharing the revenue with the state government. Here it's a big obstacles. The state government are enjoying their own apportionment, but the central government, they are delaying to move the resources from center to the required state as per their requirements. But when you delay in, it increases the obstacles in undertaking the developmental activities and welfare of the state governments. It is not continuously flowing, it's obstacle. Due to political party ruling in the different state will lose their popularity. Two different states have, center and state have different governments. The obstacles are more in moving a fund from one state to another. This will definitely leads to conflict between the center and the state government in India. What is going on between the rest of the non-BJP governments in the states? And for example, West Bengal and even Tamil Nadu government have better relation with the central government, even though they come up with the different approaches of the state governments. But we cannot compare with the Tamil Nadu with the left front government in the West Bengal. And even though we have a double engine government in Karnataka, we are not receiving the money or in tax revenue as per our share. regularly, in timely from the central government. After a lot of appeals, after lot of requests, after a lot of inquiries and task force recommendation, only part of it they are giving, not the 100%. This is the one situation. Goods and service taxes, it's a destination based tax, what we are already against. Earlier, it's a consumption based. Where consumptions are taken place, those states are enjoying more tax revenues. But it's a destination based tax. But now, most of the developed states, only they are producing, but the consumption is take place rest of the states. But in the production state, will going to lose the GST, and the consumption state will going to get the benefit out of GST. But now there is a proper balance between consumption and production. Production government is going to lose the GST revenue, and consumption tax state will going to get. That's why the government, that is the only difference what you find between the Congress government. Initially, the Congress wants to impose the GST rather than the BJP. At the time of introduction of a GST by the BJP, Congress is opposed. First time Congress wants to introduce the UPA government, and when the NPA government wants to introduce the GST, Congress is opposing, that the UPA is opposing only because we have to some kind of a justice to the production oriented states by providing 1% of additional GST cess that must goes to the production oriented states instead of consumption oriented state, by balancing the destination based tax to consumption oriented tax. In such inconvenience or such imbalances between the production, the developed state and the underdeveloped state, still under the GST mechanism, when it comes to financial allocation between the center and the state, it has to be readdressed by the GST council or by the parliament if the situation demands from the developed states, because only a few states are developed. If they're going to lose their revenue, no one person will come forward to establish the industry or industrial development in such states, but it will be demotivated for the industrialists in respect of the respect, because the state government is providing all kind of infrastructure to manufacturing, but on par with that, when they are not in a position to receive the revenue in the form of a GST, definitely indirectly, most of the developed states are demotivated because of the present system of GST. And the government has to think over to motivate the developed states and improve the financial resources of the respective state. The central government has to think to reconsidering the demand of the developed state for changing or levying off the additional 1% GST for these kind of system. The central resource transfer is not effective or correct. We have both horizontal financial relation and a vertical financial relations. When you coming to the relation center and state financial relation, we have a vertical relations, what we are thinking, and we also have a horizontal financial relations. When it comes to horizontal relations between the center and the state, there are more number of committed activities by the respective states through the election manifest. Now, the Karnataka government, they are announcing more number of schemes to the people. If suppose the government is coming to power, where you find the money? What happens in case of the Punjab? What happens in case of Delhi? They have definitely have the identified have the worstest states in the India, the financial worstest states. Their highly depends on the borrowing. Such being the case, whatever the promises made, whatever the justice, political justice you are made at the time of election through the election manifest, those expenditures are not committed or by the central government, and even the state government cannot raise the revenue on its own, but they have to borrow the money from outside. I think as per the experience of the Karnataka government, we have already 1 lakh crore of borrowings. It is increased. Earlier, 5 years back, it was 66, but it is almost 99. That is 1/3 of the borrowings is increasing to this kind of. This is the situation. The commitment on the part of the state government will definitely increases by payment of loan as well as the interest. They will ensure the indiscipline, horizontal indiscipline in respect of the financial status between center and the state. In no way central government is going to provide any financial assistance for the commitment made by the state government to achieve its political gimmicks or whatever the promises made by the respective peoples. This is the situation where the central and state government has to face in the horizontal financial relationship. Only in respect of this we are talking about. A student of taxation, if you want to a sound financial relation between center and the state, we definitely consider both the vertical as well as horizontal. Is such the situation, then we can definitely say the financial position, the financial relationship is good. Now, under the federal financial system, the situation of the state cannot survive without the assistance of the certain percentage from time to time by the center. No one state government can sustain on its own without getting any financial assistance from the center. Even though whether the developed state or a developing state or underdeveloped state, we are heavily depends on the center, because what I am already told you, the revenue generated in India, 60% are enjoyed by the central, only 40% are enjoyed by the states, and remaining 60%, only a part of that is as per the constitutional framework. In rest of those things, as per the political agenda framed by the central government to distribute the financial resources to the central government. That means to the extent of 30% of the entire revenue collected by the central government, it is still in the hands of the central government. He can disposal according to his whims and fancies, depends on the political situation, where most of the states needs political justice there at the time of distribution of the financial resources, apart from the constitutional distributions. This is one thing. And most of the states, one step ahead, they have changed the situation to give less autonomy to the state in the federal system. They are argued that no doubt we are living in the federal system of a government. Comparatively, we doesn't have an autonomy, federal autonomy to raise our resources, especially after the introduction of GST. Most of the taxes levied and collected by the state governments are clubbing together, put it in the form of GST. They can control over the most of the taxes under the list 2 by the central government. That means the power of levy and collection and apportionment of a tax as per the list 2, that is tax applicable to the state government, it is completely reduced and transfer the power from state government to central government. There, the state governments are arguing the freedom, the autonomy to the state is taken by the central government in the name of cooperative federal system of government, that is imposed to come up with a kind of a GST. There was no option for the state government whether to reconsider, think over to introduce the GST without any preparation. Most of the states, because of the revenue loss from the central government, hurriedly they are introduced the GST. Such was the situation. Keep all these things in mind. The financial relation between the central and the state, it is not as per the expectation of the state. That is very clear. We have a federal system of government. We have a constitutional background. Every political party have a different approaches, different manifest, different agenda, different mindset, different the way of achieving the economic development. But we need some cooperation under the federal system of government. Whatever be the difference we find in the center and the state, we need some kind of harmony to ensure the financial discipline, because we are the union. It's a federal system of the government. Everybody must lead, and every political party should think over to rechange their mindset and try to the motive behind this only economic achievement. If one individual achieved, the entire country will achieve. One state will achieve, definitely the entire country will showing or achieve the development. That's shining. Keep that point in mind. As a student of taxation, we have to think over what the measures we have to take into consideration in respect of the improving the financial resources. No, I'm already accepted. I'm a student of a taxation. It is from my arguments and what the experts are identified. There are a lot of task force are also there. As per my experience, the knowledge what I gained from the different sources, these are the few points the government and the people, and even including the GST people, we have to consider to improve the financial relation between the center and the state. Number one. the divisible tax should be increasing and enlarge the resource base of the state government from the present tax to the increasing. At present, only personal income tax and corporate tax comes under the purview of divisible pool. Out of it, 42% are given. No doubt, 42% is enough. It's highest rate. But as a student of taxation, we try to educate the central government. If you try to bring the GST under divisible pool, whatever the 50% of the GST collected by the central government, you put under divisible pool, free flow of taxes, and we ensure some minimum kind of a GST to the extent of 42%. The money is assured and the money is easily flowing from the divisible pool to the central state governments. That is one thing where the central government has to think over to increase the number of taxes, including the GST under the divisible. Second one, the state should think over autonomy in financial matters. It is a high time to state allowed the function with the subject of mentioned in the state list of the constitutions. We have to rethink. Once you taken back most of the taxes comes under list 2, we give some autonomy to the states to raise their revenue by imposing more number of taxes. Now there is no scope for imposing of more number of taxes, particularly after GST. Entire things is keeps under one tax system called GST, and still we have excise duty and the tax on petroleum products. But what expect you to increase? But the only thing is autonomy should be given, where the state government can autonomy in levy, deciding the rate and impositions. For example, I am talking about where the autonomy is not given to the states. When you are selling the petroleum product, to reduce the prices of the petroleum product, only a few states have reducing the price and remaining states are not reducing their part. The central government is arguing that you should reduce your part, then the price will comes down, the customer will be benefited. But the state government is arguing that you should reduce it. Who is going to reduce it? Both central and state is not ready. And the state government is not ready to reduce its revenue. And the central government is also not reduce its revenue. Such being the case, the ultimate burden is passed on to the consumers, the petroleum product users. But now the mechanism where the crude oil prices is almost downtrend, but the petroleum product prices are not in power. They are making with a loss, make good of the losses. The autonomy is given to the state. Definitely a few states, we have people-oriented states, welfare-oriented state, or a source that is the capitalistic-oriented state. They're looking the positive with the people. Definitely they can reduce the petroleum product prices if the autonomy is given. But central government is not in a position to give autonomy to the state government relating to a few aspects. But the state is demanding the central government is think over to give autonomy. Instead, indirectly, they are arguing that even the petroleum products are also comes under the purview of GST in a days to come. We don't know at what point of time the central and state will think over to introduce the GST petroleum product under the bracket of GST. And the GST collection, their lion's share enjoyed by the central government to the extent of what I am already told you, 60%. And the transfer of the central government taxes, it is about 36%. That is below the 14th Finance Commission mandated to the extent of 42%. The Finance Commission is already told only to the extent of 42% the revenue should be transferred from divisible pool to states. But in case of GST, what the revenue collected by the central government in the name of CGST, out of which only 36% is redistributed to the state government, still a lacuna of a 6%. That's a huge amount. 6% is a huge amount. And in such case, if you since the divisible pool tax excluding surcharge and cess, that is very different things. If you increases another 6%, that will comes to 42%. Even though it is possible only when GST comes under the purview of divisible pool, the existing 36% will definitely go to 42%. Otherwise, only to the extent of 36% is redistributed by the central government with their mechanism instead of 42%. The state governments are demanding to introduce or including the GST to the divisible pool, because to demand to increases of 6%, that is the difference between the existing receiving of 36%, the expected percentage if the GST is put under the divisible pool. At present, that is a 42%. Still, there is a gap because of non-inclusion of GST to the divisibles. If it is introduced, definitely increases by 6%. That can make some kind of a justice to the state governments. And in India, even after a 15 Finance Commission, the role of Finance Commission has been marginalized. That is the biggest problem. The filing of revenue gap within the states and a few areas only. I am already today, there are 14 principles followed by the Finance Commission to redistribute or allocate the financial resources from the center to state as per the Finance Commission. There are so many aspects are ignored by the center, the Finance Commission at the time of redistribution. What I am already told you, we should always take care of the vertical financial relationship can be taken care by the Finance Commission. The horizontal financial parameters are ensure the financial discipline are not taken into care by the Finance Commission because it's a different kind of the political system. We need to address the vertical parameter of financial discipline by the Finance Commission. Keep those parameter also as a base. Definitely both vertical and the horizontal the financial relationship between the center and state will definitely improve through the Finance Commission. At least at the time of appointment of the 16th Finance Commission, the central should ensure that there should be assigned certain duties to the Finance Commission, not only looking towards the horizontal, we also take vertical, we also taking care about the horizontal aspects also. The demand for supply gap in the state and the central government, its financial requirements should be reducing from the center to genuine requirement basis by looking at the political party agenda. Now here, there is a huge gap between the demand and supply of financial resources between the center and the state. For every time the state government is demanding huge amount, for example, in case of disaster, in case of deficit, in case of a financial resources, expecting from the center is used, but the central government is providing a part of it. There is a huge gap between the demand and supply of financial resources. When this is a huge gap, the state governments are made them to commit themselves to borrowing the money or making a loan to fulfill the agenda of the political parties. I'm already told you, the state government have more commitment at the time of different situations, maybe election, maybe whatever the scheme they're launched, whatever the political agenda keep there in mind, they have a huge gap to commit such kind of activities. But inevitably, without getting any assistance from the central government, the state government has to go for a loan. Such being the case, the financial relation between the financial condition of the state government, definitely the worst situation rather than what we are expecting is already a few states have such kind of, they're reaching the status, but the people of those states will, I don't think he will continue the same status for another couple of days. Another couple of years. The financial situation may be worst. What the commitments, the promises made by the political party, everything is free. Electricity fee, water is free. There are a lot of schemes. Where the money comes? As a taxpayer, as a student of taxation, we should think over where the money comes. Central government not assured to give you. State government does it not have a power to raise on this revenue. Only you should borrow. How long you can borrow? How long you are ready to pay the interest? One day you don't have money even for the payment of interest and the principal. The situation will be worse, but is already a few states such of Jammu, that is the Punjab and the Delhi and the Maharashtra, they are alarming. The financial position of the respective states are worst. We are far, far better than those states. We are very happy. But in another 5 years, whatever the promises during the election, I don't think the situation may be reverse. That is one thing. Keep all those things in mind. This is the time where before conclusion, now I will try to allow you people to definitely, and I am already think over. We are almost welcome for value-added information, but I am already appeal that I am declare that all of we are student of taxation. And we are the student, we need to update ourselves, including what I am the person sitting here as in the name of resource person. I am a student from the last 32 years as a student of taxation. Still we have the learning. That is the vibrant of the taxation. And any value added information, value added discussions, and any clarification from your side, I am most welcome by educating myself and sharing my knowledge with you people before comes to the conclusions. And now, before comes to the conclusion, once I am receiving the clarification or any value-added information from your side, on that basis, including my idea, I try to conclude the concept. Now the session is open for you people. Definitely, I can interact.
Sir, good morning. This is Suresh Babu from Salem, sir.
Please, sir.
Sir, just I want to know if any country is having a following no tax economy. That's the first one question. One question. The second question is the role of central government is high than the state government. Being a leader of the country, the central government have to look after the whole country. Naturally, the head of the family gives more importance to the people, those who need.
Yes.
So in that case, just I want to know what the 60% the income what they are gaining is acceptable, I think.
No. If there any other clarification apart from these two. Okay, for the first one, no one country in the economic system have definitely no tax economic system. But knowingly or unknowingly, the rate of GST is very low, 4%. But in a down the other 3-4 years, what they are expecting, they are coming into the form of an expenditure tax instead of tax. There's a charge on expenditures, where the government is also think over the no economics, no tax system, no economic tax system. But such being the case, at present, no one government have such kind of a tax-free economy, but only they are very low percentage of tax of 4% single rate of GST in most of these governments. That is most of the countries. That is one thing. Second one, yes, as a leader of head of the family, I am definitely accept the spirit behind the central government to control over the state government to ensure the financial indiscipline amount. But you consider the spirit of the constitution also. The spirit of the constitution is very clear. You should be equally distributed for both center and state by the list 1, list 2 and concurrent list. You should definitely provide a freedom to the state governments. Otherwise, I am already told you in case of allocation of resources, no problem. The constitution is very clear. List 1, list 2, 3, all are applicable to all. But in case of the flow of money from divisible pool, the state government, that is also as per the requirement of the base recommendation of the Finance Commission itself, the 14 principles they are followed. But in rest of the 36% of the revenue allocated by the central government to state government, they find indifferences because of the different political agenda keep their mind. I think you are from Tamil Nadu, is it? Now, even though Karnataka have a double engine government, Tamil Nadu will more benefit from the present central government. How can it happen? Normally, people what we say, we want both center and state government have a single government. That advantage we have to receive by the Karnataka people. But even though you have different governments, but you are enjoying more financial assistance from the center compared to the Karnataka government. How can it happen? Because of the political injustice. We should come up with certain principle. I am accepted the spirit behind the allocation of this central government. But you should not keep all the same different parameter, differential treatment all the time. But disaster management. The Madhya Pradesh will get more benefit when compared to Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is assessed almost 2 lakhs crores, but they are receiving only 25% of their loss. Where it goes the remaining 75%. In percentage of allocations, definitely find indifferences, such as to be plugged, that has to be replaced by the central government mindset has to think. I am definitely accept it is a cooperative federal system, central have more power. But when have more power, You are the head of the family. You try to look all the peoples of all the state with a single directions. That is my ambition. Please.
Sir, good morning, sir. This is
Good morning.
Devarajan.
Please.
This is Devarajan from Tamil Nadu, sir.
Please, sir.
Sir, what is your opinion to tap the political injustice in the tax autonomy?
So that's what I always try to put on. Political injustice to the extent of the revenue distribution under the constitution is no interference. Only in case of the grants in aids, revenue deficit, disaster management fund flow from central government to state government, we find political injustice. That is one thing is very clear. And the second thing, the financial autonomy given by the central government, it must be applicable for all the states. There is no political agenda, there is no political injustice or arises. Only where in the wake of elections or in the wake of the different political party in the state government, the central government is looking the different directions in the allocation of these three funds, apart from the fund allocated as per the constitution. That's what I'm already three important areas: disaster management fund, revenue deficit fund, and the grants in aids. In such funds, the central government or any experience of any government for that matter, I'm not talking about the BJP and other things, including the UPA government, find a political injustice here. And some of the idea behind that, we try to bring the entire system into a single system. But in the democratic setup, it is not possible. Because the Tamil Nadu government, the Tamil Nadu people, Tamil Nadu approach is totally different from Karnataka approach. In such being the case, to commit themselves as the elected representative government, the ruling government, the central government is also take care of the interest of the state political government to achieve their political interest. You should not deny the elected government to achieve their political objectives. Even though it may be objective of the Tamil Nadu government, it is not on par with the central government. But as the head of the family, what one of Suresh Babu sir, it is, you should not show the political injustice. Every government have its own political agenda. But to fulfill those, it is the binding on the part of the state government. You should not show any kind of political injustice at the time of fulfilling their respective state objectives by allocation of financial or restrict the financial flow to such kind of activities. In such case, the central government has to ensure political justice. Otherwise, you should lose the freedom of the respective local government or respective state government's power. That is my opinions.
Yes, sir. But while sharing the disaster fund,
yes,
why the central government to deny to all the states, especially having the different government?
Yeah, that is the one important. Even though under different governments, that is where we find normally same government should get more benefit. But even at the time of same government, we will not in a position to get. Only thing is to measure there is a task force. The central government has to appoint a task force. The task force has to measure the quantum of loss, and the report submitted by those committees, the central government has to think over to allocate the revenues. But here, immediately is not in a position to small. One thing what I feel under the present system, free flow is restricted under the constitution. It is the entire supreme power of the central government. The fund can be allocated by the central government to the whatever the nature of disaster. In such being the case, the state governments should demand for more. Always they demand for more. The assessment is more. You can definitely identify the task force assessed by the state government is always used. That same situation assessed by the central government have a big gap.
Yes, sir. Of course, I do agree with you, sir. In the last Tamil Nadu government demanding 2,000 crore, but the central government declares only 300 crore. There is a vast gap between the demand and supply.
One thing, it is a disaster fund is always there, and nowhere the government is reimbursed. But the only thing is they want to identify themselves, and they say on installment basis they are ready to give, and they are not in a position to give as per the expectation. That is the one of the important political injustice where we find in allocation of the disaster fund between the center and the state, where we have a different approach governments. We can definitely accept it as a student of taxation. In some other state, they are receiving more than Tamil Nadu, even though demand for more than less than the 2 crores, 2,000 crores, where definitely we find injustice. They demand 1,800 crores, they are getting 500 crores. You are demanding for 2,000 crores, you are receiving only 300 crores. Now, how can you provide a justice here? Definitely the Tamil Nadu people, the respective people have definitely shown their hands to their central government. They are doing some kind of injustice. The statistical figure itself is clear that no one has to identify. But we need some kind of a financial analysis here. As a student of taxation, we have to keep all those things. That's why nowadays the tax accounting is going on, tax auditing is going on. That's a part of it. The Supreme Court is advised the taxpayer, you should form an association. Through your association, definitely we can give accountability for the both center and state government about the money we are sacrificing in the form of tax.
Sir, in what way we can get a majority of power in the GST Council?
So,
Because the entire power vested in the hands of the central government, sir, in the GST Council. I think more than 51%.
I feel here, the GST Council, every state government have its own representatives. The representative should not go to the sake of attending the meeting, that should demand in the right basis what they want. That is where most of the state governments are failed. When in the beginning itself, the West Bengal government, the Dasgupta, was always fighting about the introduction of GST from the point of view of the society itself, not from the government. That's why he was appointed as the first person relating to take care of the affair of the GST. But what I feel is, most of the politicians are representative of the state government attending in the GST Council. Even the publics can also raise the issues, but the decision is always influenced by the central government. That's one thing where the present government think over to bring more number of BJP peoples are involved, or more number of central government allied peoples are involved in the state government. Whatever the opinions come up with the central government, automatically majority of the people say yes. And a few states doesn't have close association with the central government, they have taken back their voice. This is where most of the issues from the different governments have failed to achieve themselves. The spirit behind discussion should be think over whether it is BJP government or non-BJP government, that is immaterial. First, you should protect the interest of the state people. If you debate it, if you participate with the spirit behind the interest of the people, irrespective of their government, definitely the GST will provide some kind of a justice. But here, if you go through the agenda of the outcome of the BJP, that is GST Council, how many of we people are read out all those things and try to understand? Only a few people are come forward to discuss with. Remaining people are attending just a meeting and course. Such being that ineffective participation will leads to this kind of the supervision or the command over the GST Council. What my experience is. If there is any other experience from your side, I would like to educate myself.
Sir, surprised to know the share of what Karnataka is getting. Though Madam Nirmala Sitharaman is daughter of Tamil Nadu, but she is daughter-in-law of Karnataka.
Yes.
Then how it being a double engine?
That is the situation where the BJP government or the central government is focusing the other peoples, other state peoples. If you provide more autonomy or more resources, the other government will definitely think over the double engine government is working here. But I have already told you there is a huge gap between the demand and the supply. If you have a huge demand, the expectation will be definitely as per our demand, but the practicability is totally different. In such case, the government, double engine government, in some of the cases will not working rather than the election period. From the election point of view, definitely double engine and other people will definitely work it. Even without double engine, Tamil Nadu people will definitely get it more during the election period. Sometimes before, without election period, double engine or triple engine government will not getting any kind of support because we have keeping long time for the facing of election. But one of my friends, Suresh Babu, said it is definitely a good leadership is going on. Good relationship is going on between the center and the state, but commanding the central government power. But it needs to rethink over the establishing the sound financial relations. I think in a days to come, central government has to change their mindset. Whatever be the political agenda, the different political parties, they have to put under the real union federal system of a government. That spirit we have, and that spirit, with that spirit, if you want to rule the government, nothing will. They are keeping only on the development. Don't take any other consideration, the political agenda in mind. In most of the election campaigning, Modi not taking any kind of election agenda. They are always thinking over the developmental activities. If the developmental activities take place, definitely central government have good establishing good relation. If you try to mix with the election agenda, where we have to think over, that is a failure of financial relationship.
Sir,
Good morning, sir.
Sir, one general question, sir.
This is, sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning, please, sir.
This is Dr. S. Mahesh Kanal, sir, from Coimbatore.
Go ahead, please, sir.
In India, GST tax system is very good.
Yes.
But some of the companies not paying taxes, direct or indirect. For example, a mobile production company produces 100 mobiles, but paying tax only 500 mobiles, direct or indirect. In my question, how to identify particular mobile paid the GST before or after purchase?
Sir, the present mechanism of production is very clear. There is a input and output relationship is established. Your books of account very close. We are both the direct and indirect self-removal scheme. The input and output have a good relationship. You have procured the input for 10 mobiles and you have to produce the 10 mobile. That must be a relation between input and output. Whatever the input tax credit you are claiming, that has to be shown in at the time of tax collection. That is, the theory is very clear. You have to maintain the input and output balance. But in practical, every mobile have its own number. Every mobile have its own their identifiable number. But apart from that, more number of companies producing more than the unit specified, the capacity specified, then the prescribed or the permission taken or the license given. In such cases, definitely the mobiles can be avoid the payment of tax. But how long people we are purchasing the product without payment of a GST, that is possible in the market. If you demand for the payment of GST for a bill or a genuine bill, I think no one seller, no one manufacturer can sell the product without it. But the people has to educate it ourselves. Plus, more number of highly valuable mobiles without bill, they are not ready to purchase it because we are paying huge amount to face the consequences of the uncertainty about the repairs and other things, or whatever that they have, and the getting insurance. We demanding the genuine bill by payment of a tax. But this is going on in case of an import of the goods from outside, where the cheap goods are available at the India in the form of a customs duty, or some of the neighboring countries are dumping certain goods. In such cases, the mobiles are selling or any product are selling without any payment of GST. But a manufacturer, in practical, in theory, he must establish a relation between input and output. That's why the books of accounts should be shown. In other than some kind of illegal activities are also going on, depends on the economic systems or market shares.
Sir, I want to add the one point of
Please.
Mahesh Khanna, sir.
Please, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, this is happening especially in the jewelry shop.
And food
When they
industry
buy
also,
the
sir.
jewelry shop owner asking, you want a GST bill or without GST bill?
Yeah, yeah.
How come it is possible for jewelry shop owners, sir?
Also food industry, sir.
Yes, definitely I'm accept your question, sir. Because most of the jewelry shop owners are giving without GST, the prices will be definitely available at cheaper rate to the extent of 18%. Oh, okay, in another 2 minutes, sir. such being the case, the jewelry shop owners are reducing the wastage on the one side, they're reducing the making charges on the other side, they're going to charge only paying the GST for that one. And even if they want to sell the jewelry without GST, I think we think over the quality of a gold there, because we doesn't have any kind of a receipt. Whether it is a 91 carat or a 86 carat, how can you define it? Because we don't have any bill. When you don't have any bill, we don't have any, we consider that we are not authorized buyer also.
Listen, they are issuing the bill, sir, without GST.
Issuing the bill, but we cannot legally question. That is going, most of the jewelry shops are going on only between the one-to-one relations. We have keep relation with the long back. Based on the experience and based on the relationship with the jewelry merchant, most of the people are still today they are buying jewelers. Adugunatrane hogta irtunnam.
Customs of trade.
Yes, it's a customs of trade, no doubt, sir.
Sir,